So in my last video, I did an unboxing and a review of the new stainless steel version of the JessEm Dowel Jig. I received a number of comments and emails about the video, and while most of those were very positive, there were a few that were, I wouldn't say negative, but they were from people who are not convinced that this is a quality product and that it's something that you should spend your money on. Now, some of those comments were from people who have never used this, so I kind of, took those with a grain of salt, especially this one email I got. It was really off the rails. The guy was just like total hatred for JessEm Tool Company for some reason. I don't know what that was all about, but some of those comments were from people who actually own this jig and have used it. So those are the ones I'm really taking more seriously. There were claims that the plates for the jig are not flat, that it's not square, it's not 90 degrees. It just doesn't do its job like it's supposed to. Now, obviously, I can't test out the tool they have. I can only test what I have, but I'm going to take these things apart and see if the plates are flat or not, see if they're square and if they're really 90 degrees. And I'm really just going to go over these things with a fine-tooth comb and make sure they are made to the specs they need to be made to make an accurate dowel joint. One complaint I heard from a few people that really stood out to me was that the drill guide bushings were not parallel to this fence. And of course, they really need to be for you to get accurate results. And I think something that a lot of people don't realize is that if these guide bushings are out of whack in reference to the fence here, that's fully adjustable. Just like any tool, when you first get it, you should check it to make sure it's square and plumb and all set up how it's supposed to be. And if it's not, make any adjustments you need to make to get accurate results. Now, like I said, if this is not set up properly when you get it, you can adjust that. But the problem is, nowhere in the manual that comes with this jig, I couldn't find anything on JessEm's website about it. Nothing tells you that you can adjust this or how to do it. If you own this tool or you're planning on getting it, this is really something you need to know how to do. You need to know how to check it, and if it's not right, how to adjust it so it is right. This honestly might be the most valuable information that you will hear about this particular doweling jig, because if it's not set up right, you're not going to get the results you need, and it's basically a paperweight. So one of the complaints I heard from people was that these are simply not square. The fence and this face are not square to each other. And I heard this from several people who all claim to have actual experience with this jig. So I have a very accurate, handy dandy little square here. I'm going to check mine out, and if they're out of whack, we're going to discover that together right now. But I will say, if mine are square, just because mine are doesn't mean that theirs are. You know, the jig that they got, maybe there is some quality control issue at the factory. Maybe it was dropped. Who knows? But I'm going to check mine. Obviously, I can't check theirs, but I'm going to check mine and see what we get. All right, guys, I'm going to check these big to small. Here is the 1/2-inch jig. Let me get in closer so you can see that. All right, I'm a little closer so you can see this better, but this is going to be real quick. This is, it's perfect, right? Can you see that? That's the 1/2-inch. And then here's the 3/8 drill guide. I'm getting real close. That's like perfect, perfectly square. And here's the 1/4-inch guide. Let's see here. I don't know. Looks pretty stinking square to me. I'll let you be the judge, but it looks pretty good to my eye. And in case you were wondering, here is the 45-degree plate. Maybe you can see that going there. That is dead on 45 degrees. If you're enjoying the video so far, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you get notified when new videos come out. And post any thoughts you have in the comment section below. I would love to read them. All those things are free to you, and they really help the channel out. Another complaint I heard was that the drill guide plates are not flat and they're kind of flimsy. So I have a cast iron top on my table saw. It is dead flat. It's probably the flattest thing in my shop. So I'm going to take the jigs apart and put those drill guide plates on that cast iron top and just kind of give them the little wobble test and see if they wobble around or if they're flat. All right, so I have them taken apart, and here they are on my cast iron top of my table saw, and they're flat. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's no wobble in them anywhere. You know, if they were wobbling, you would hear them like kind of go ting, 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 like wobble around, I guess. I don't know. They seem pretty flat to me. All right, so I think I've pretty well established that these plates are flat and these jigs are square. But another complaint I heard was that this thing is flimsy, especially compared to the original doweling jig from JessEm. These are just flimsy. And yes, if I grab this like this and I give this a pretty good squeeze, I can feel a little bit of flex. Now, when I use this, do I notice any flex or deflection? No, but when I grab it here in my hand, I can definitely make it flex. And if you have it set up like this, where it's farther out, that's just going to provide more opportunity for it to flex, right? The closer in it is, I think the more rigid it'll be. The farther out, the more chance there is for it to flex. That said, if you do have the jig set up like this and you're drilling into a piece of wood and you have it all clamped in place properly and you're not putting too much pressure with the drill, you're not, overdoing it, going crazy with it, the jig is supported by the wood underneath. I don't see it flexing or really causing a problem. Would I call this flimsy? No, I wouldn't. Is it as strong and as robust as this thing? No, it's not. I mean, this is a tank. Like, this is like an up armored Humvee. This is an Abrams. I don't care where this thing is set, and I don't care how hard I push on this. I'm not going to flex this one bit. So yeah, this definitely isn't as strong as this one. But like I said, so far in use, I have not had an issue with this flexing or drilling my holes, off-centered or at weird angles or anything like that. They're both quality tools. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these setups. So if you think the potential for the stainless steel jig to flex a little bit might be a problem for you, then I would just stay away from that tool and go with the original one. I wanted to share another great point that was made in the comment section on the video, and that is the fact that the original jig has these holes in it to screw this down to some kind of fixture and make this like a permanent part of a doweling workstation. Now you can DIY one and integrate some clamping into it and really batch out some dowel holes, or JessEm actually sells one that this jig fits right into. You can miter it and you can do all kinds of things. It'd be a great addition to this jig if you have it. The stainless steel one being just slim and trim, high speed, low drag. There's really no way to attach this like permanently to a fixture. This is more of a tool you take to the work instead of taking the work to the tool. In fact, JessEm's doweling workstation is on sale right now. It's down to $150. I went ahead and ordered one. When that comes in, I'll do a video on it. So my plan is to have this one installed in the workstation, and then I will have these available to take to the work if I need to do that. So with having both setups like that, all my dowel joint needs will be covered. Another thing I wanted to point out with comparing these two jigs, I didn't really notice this until a viewer asked a question about it, is that the guide bushings themselves are quite a bit longer on the original jig. For example, here's the 1/2-inch drill guide for each, and if I line up the bottoms, you can see there, let me get over here, how much taller the guide bushings are on the original jig. And that's true all the way across. Here's the 1/4-inch jig for each, and you can see on the original, those guides are nearly twice as tall. I don't know if you can see it. I hope you can see that. I probably can do this a better way, but you get the idea. They're a lot taller, and consequently, so are the guide pins. There's the 1/4-inch guide pins. I'm sure you can tell which pin goes to which set. Having these shorter guide bushings hasn't been a problem for me, but I thought I'd make you aware of it, and it's something to consider if you're deciding between these two jigs. I was going to try to demo a few joints in this video, but I don't want to skimp on that, so I think I'm going to wait and do those in a separate video. There's one joint in particular that a couple people have asked about, and doing that joint, the thickness or the thinness of this jig compared to how thick this one is, that creates a problem for doing this one particular type of joint. So I've been emailing back and forth with one of my viewers. He came up with a great solution, I think, for doing that. He sent me this cool drawing he did on his computer of it, and I'm going to test that out. I'm sure he's going to test it out too, because I think he ordered this jig, and we'll get that worked out. But like I said, I don't want to skimp on that, so I'm going to do that in a separate video. That'll be coming up. But the last thing I want to talk about in this video is what I mentioned in the beginning, and that is how you can adjust this jig in case these bushings are not parallel with this face. If they're like canted one way or the other, that is adjustable, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, guys, this is going to be a little bit awkward, but I'm going to try to make this work to show you this as well as I can. So what we're checking here is, are these drill guide bushings parallel to this face? That is critical for making good joints here. So what I've come up with is setting the guide at the 1/2 inch mark, and that works for all 3 sizes. And I want you to pay attention to the gap between the fence and the drill guide, that little space right there where you can see my outfeed table through it. And as I tilt this towards me, you can see that gap closing, and your eyes are really good. I mean, you can get really precise. You can see the light between them is disappearing at pretty much exactly the same time. So by checking this, we know that these drill guide bushings are parallel to this fence. So if this was not parallel, say if this whole plate was shifted one way or the other, then as you did this, you know, this side would close up quicker than this side, or vice versa. And if that were the case, you would fix that by adjusting this plate right here. Because how this thing works is, if this thumb screw is loose and this is loose, you set this where you want it. Say we'll go back to our 1/2 inch mark, and then we tighten this down a little bit just to get those teeth engaged. Then you tighten this down really good, and then I snug that just a little bit more. You don't want to over tighten this. You don't need to. But what that does when you tighten this is it pushes on the plate right here, and it pushes the whole plate into this smaller plate, and that lines everything up. So if this small plate right here with the 0 on it, if that's turned too far this way or that way, then that's going to throw these out of whack up or down this way. And as you can see, there's 2 Allen screws right here and a pivot point in the middle. So this is made to make fine adjustments to this whole jig. And why they don't tell you this in the owner's manual or on JessEm's website, I have no idea. I guess they figure they calibrate them and set them perfectly at the factory, and you don't need to touch this. But when I noticed this and I started looking at my jigs, I had to adjust this one. This one was off. This side, when I did my little tilt test here, this side was quite a bit lower than this side. So if you check your jig and it needs to be adjusted, all you need to do is take a 4mm Allen wrench, loosen these 2 screws, loosen everything up, and then this whole plate will shift this way. So what I did, I just got it as close as I could by eye. I held it tight, and I snugged these down, not all the way, but enough to where they stayed in place. And then I took a mallet and I made fine adjustments by knocking on either this side or this side of the plate to just make really fine, small adjustments in that until I got it perfect. It's kind of like adjusting a plane iron on a hand plane to get it, so it's cutting square. It's kind of the same idea. Then once that was done, I tightened everything down. I checked everything, and it was still off just a tiny bit. So I loosened everything up. I just barely broke these a little bit so they were still snug and holding in place, but not so tight where I couldn't move them. Again, took my mallet, made just one little tap of adjustment, and then it was dead on. I cranked everything down, and now it's perfect. So it only took a few minutes to make the adjustments I needed on this jig, but it absolutely had to be done. When you're doing joinery, you're looking for precision, or as much precision as you can get. So like any tool you buy, you get something like this, check it, make sure it's set up how it's supposed to be, and if it's not, make the necessary adjustments. If you're using these and you notice anything I missed or I neglected to talk about, post about it down in the comments below. That just helps everyone out and it's greatly appreciated. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I really hope you're finding the information about these tools helpful. And remember, if you have this jig, check them for square, make sure they're set up properly. And if they're not, go through that procedure I showed you for adjusting this so you can get the most out of this tool that you can. And while you're at it, if you haven't done it in a while, go check all the tools in your shop and make sure they're set up properly so you can get the most out of them and do the best work that you're capable of. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.